Listen to this episode if you are wanting to learn more about pricing your products and understanding how you can charge what you are worth in your small business. This is a conversation that I have with a lot of my clients. They say, Maddie, I know that I'm not charging as much as I should be, but I'm trying to be affordable, or I'm trying to I want to be the most affordable option. Or when I talk to somebody about differentiating their business, a lot of times they're like, well, I want it to be an affordable business. I want to be the most affordable product out there. And where this is wonderful and it's admirable and it's a great concept, most of the time, small businesses cannot differentiate on the fact of affordability. Of course, there are exceptions out there. There's plenty of businesses that are like, you know what, I want to be an affordable option for this, but without actually looking at your costs, you have to really understand why you are trying to be the most affordable option. Being a handmade business, unless you are willing to manufacture something overseas, buy in bulk, buy 1,000 of them at a time, being the most affordable option is actually really hard as a small business. 99% of the time, being an affordable option is not a differentiator, and it isn't an actual scalable business model as a small business. So I want to talk about profit margins. I want to talk about affordability today and kind of dive into this topic. Rarely do small businesses actually have the ability to differentiate on the fact of being affordable, because as a small business owner, and I know so many of my listeners, you are probably a solo entrepreneur, you might be hand making your product, or you're making them in small batches, or you are creating something at a smaller scale. You're trying to add personal touches to it. Again, if you're here, you probably have a heart-centered kind of vibe around your brand where you want to have the added packaging, you want to add the fun branding, you have the little fun inserts into your products. All of those things are wonderful, but they do add up all of the costs. And so we can't have everything. Now, if you look at it, there are brands out there that try to differentiate on being affordable. Let's look at Spirit Airlines. You know what? I am a cheap flyer. All right. I have made the decision this year that I am no longer flying at the 3 a.m. flights just for them to be the cheapest as possible. But your girl has frequented Spirit Airlines for a very long time. And let me tell you, yes, they have differentiated on affordability, but they are known as the bare bones. They are known as the airline that you get nothing. You literally pay for water. You literally pay for every single bag. You literally pay for everything on that flight. Do you want to err on the side of being the small business owner knowing that the perceived value of your product is as low as the perceived value of Spirit Airlines? Look at the communication around this brand. Look at how many videos you see of a hurricane is coming, but Spirit Airlines needs to make their fares go, and it's like Spirit Airlines landing their plane in the middle of a torrential downpour. Or all of this other narrative around Spirit Airlines is because they are the bare bones most affordable option. The perceived value of a Spirit Airlines is much lower. Again, I have flown Spirit Airlines. I've truly never had an issue, but that is the marketing, that is the consumer knowledge around Spirit Airlines than how you feel around a Delta. Delta has differentiated themselves on being kind of prestigious, of feeling like even when you're in economy, you are getting the headphones, you're getting the water, you're getting a snack, you're getting something. You have they differentiate at a higher level. Even though they're providing the same service, Spirit Airlines has said, you're bare bones, you get what you get. You basically get a seat, even though it has a half an inch of a cushion, you get the seat and you get from point A to point B and nothing else. Whereas Delta has differentiated on being like, you're going to have a great time. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to get there. You're going to have some little snacks along the way. And this is a more prestigious airline. And even though they're providing the same thing, their flights don't have to be as super expensive, but they have the messaging around their brand that you are getting this more prestigious airfare. And so you want to look at this from your business is, do you want to be seen as affordable? A lot of times affordable is the lower quality. This is why looking at Walmart, look at Walmart. The stuff that's at Walmart versus Target is very similar, but Walmart has differentiated on being the cheapest place. Save money, live better. Target does not talk about, the lowest costs available because they don't want to be seen as the lowest costs available because they have a higher brand image. And so when we really look at this, do you want to be seen as the Walmart or the Spirit Airlines within your industry? And so as a small business, a lot of times you have extra costs. You have the shipping, you have the packaging, you have your own labor. And especially as a handmade business, you can't always be the bare bones candle maker. You can't always be the bare bones apparel company. And so unless you have found a way for you to make your product revolutionarily at a lower cost than everything out there, you don't want to differentiate on affordability. As a small business owner, you have prestige. Having a small batch, having sustainable packaging, having all of these things that you have added to your brand adds a level of perceived value to your products. You want to call in people that are like, yeah, absolutely, I'll pay for that for the sustainable option. I'll pay that for the high, like the grass fed whatever. I'll pay that for the small batch, small business, supporting your business as opposed to another business. So when you try to start differentiating on affordability, not only are you shooting yourself in the foot from your costs, because unless, again, you have found a way to manufacture your product at a very low cost, you a lot of times can't actually differentiate on affordability. My clients that I speak to about this, that they're like, Maddie, I just want to be an affordable option. We look at their pricing, and a lot of times they're making pennies. Some of them are even losing money every time that someone buys for them because they aren't charging for their labor. It doesn't allow you to build a business that is scalable. As a small business, your costs are naturally higher. If you are trying to differentiate and charge less and have a lower profit margin, this doesn't allow for scalability. It doesn't allow for wholesale. It doesn't allow for it to actually make sense for you to be building this business. And so unless we can find a way for you to actually charge what's your worth, which we'll get into of how to actually do this, you are kind of shooting yourself in the foot when you are trying to be the most affordable option, or you're trying to, it's good to cut costs. It's good to have a good pricing model. It's good, but it's also good to have a good profit margin. If you ever watch Shark Tank, they always ask, what's your profit margin? What's your cost? And what do you charge for it? They're trying to figure out what is the overall margin here. The average profit margin out there is probably 45 to 50%, depending on your industry. Some of it is like 60%, some of it's 80%, some of them have like a 30% profit margin. It all depends on your industry, something you can Google. But what we're looking at there is if your product costs you $5 to make, and that is $5 for your labor, for your shipping, for your costs, your materials, your packaging that goes into it, any paperwork that happens there, any of your softwares, your overhead, all of that, if it costs you $5 to make that product and you are selling it for $10, you have a $5 or a 50% profit margin of your total cost, of your total price of your product. What percentage of that is actually money you're taking home minus the costs? And that is what your profit margin is. When you look at these Shark Tank brands, they come in, it's one of the major questions that people ask is the sharks ask, what's your cost? What's the price of your product? And you can see like sharks only want to invest in products that have a profit margin that makes sense. Because if you're making pennies on every purchase, if you have a 20% profit margin, they're like, it's hard to scale. I don't see how you can scale this product. And so what you want to do here is we have to make sure that this product makes sense for you to scale, for you to have a business that can actually grow with you, a product that can grow with you without you having to, at some point, totally hike your prices because it makes sense. If you want to be affordable, a handmade business, it normally does not mesh with affordability because you're putting so much love and care into making that product and extra labor. Now, some of my clients that they manufacture a product, they can try to come in at a competitive rate or maybe $1 less than everybody else out there. So people do choose them over some competitors, but this doesn't mean that you are differentiating your brand based on affordability. especially if you're hand making your product, but in general, you should be charging what you are worth. And there are so many things out there that people will pay for what you have if it has the benefit, if it has the meaning, if it's going to solve a problem for them. Yes, we want to find a good pricing fit for your consumer audience, but that doesn't mean that you should be making $3 for every $25 somebody spends with your brand, because that just doesn't make sense. And so I want this to be a permission slip for you to charge what's your worth, as a reminder to you to look at all of your costs in general so you know that your pricing structure makes sense, as well as the importance of strategy behind everything that we're doing. And this is kind of what I really want to dive into next. So instead of trying to differentiate on the fact that you're affordable, that you are the lowest price on the market, we want you to charge your worth and actually just properly communicate your benefits and the meaning behind your brand and your product effectively. And that is why the Chanels of the world, the Dior's of the world, the like high-end cars of the world can charge those things, is because they have communicated their benefits and the meaning behind their products effectively. I have clients and artists that sell a mug for $150 per mug, and people buy it every time she launches it. And that's because she has communicated the emotion behind buying that mug and the connection to her effectively, that they will buy it. Even though they could go to Target or they could go to Walmart and buy a mug for $5, they still are spending the $150 because it's handmade. It's made by her, who they have a connection to because she's built a community, as well as they love the emotion behind that mug. It makes them feel happy. If you go and you walk around these markets, you see people buying things that, sure, they could go to Target, they could go to Walmart, and they could pay those smaller amounts for, because those products are mass manufactured. They are directly sold to Walmart sometimes. That's why like the Equate brand or like the store brands are so much cheaper, because it cuts out the middleman. And so now there's fewer people in that puzzle, that they have fewer costs, so they can actually effectively charge less. And so for you, who is a one-man show, maybe hand making your products, you're putting so much love, so much care into the packaging, into your handwritten letters, into the product that you're making. You are you are hand pouring them. You're making them in small batches. There are inherent qualities but all of those things add a higher cost to your product. And so what we have to do in order to allow for you to be able to charge what you are worth is actually know every single cost that goes into it. I want you to really get a strong understanding of what your costs are of your products. That goes for every material, every piece of paper you're putting in there, every ribbon that you add to your products, every shipping, packaging, your overhead, all of that should be taken care of in your costs, in the cost of your products. And so when people say, Maddie, I can't run discounts because my profit margin doesn't allow, I literally, I only make a couple of dollars. If I discount it, I'm actually losing money. To me, that means that your products are not priced for the proper costs. You should be able to discount your products. You should be able to provide some products and some discounts, some promos, some buy one, get ones, and allow for it to still make you money. There's a reason that some of these companies, I don't know, not everywhere, only the Midwest has these hardware stores. It's called Menards. Menards is like this big hardware store in the Midwest. And when I was building my bus out, we bought everything at Menards because you got 11% rebate on every purchase, which means everything I bought, I got 11% back on a gift card once I turned in my receipt. So after I built my bus out and cost, whatever, for easy math, it was $10,000, let's say, for me to build my bus out, all of the wood, all of the electrical, all of the supplies, everything, for easy math. I don't really know that number, but $10,000, that means that I got $1,100 back on a credit and on a gift card for us to spend. which was awesome because then that allowed me to kind of finish out my bus, or it allowed us to do something else with that money. Do I think that they just increased their pricing in order to decrease it by 11%? Yeah, probably, but it got me. It allowed me to choose them over Home Depot, over Ace Hardware, over everybody else. I chose to go to Menards because I knew I was giving 11% cash back. Do I feel like they probably just upped their price a little bit in order to account for that 11% rebate all the time? Yes. You know why they did that is because they had to account for their costs, but that discount got me to come in. So what I'm trying to say here is a lot of times, the majority of businesses, you can discount or you can give promos without it reducing the actual like perceived value of your products, and it will help you make sales sooner. So we have to account for that discount in there. So I want you to know all of your costs, know that you can charge what you're worth, and you can add a couple of dollars into there so you can have that profit margin. And then what you have to do is you have to be able to communicate this effectively. You have to have that branding and those visual images there, because a lot of times when people are saying, you know, like, oh, like whatever, I could make that, or like maybe I'll just do this at home, is because they don't see the value in what you are creating, which you're not going to be for everybody. And people are always going to say that, is that they don't see the value or that they can make it at home. I hear all of the horror stories of markets, which is terrible for somebody to say, but for you to have the visuals, for you to have the branding, and really for you to have the packaging and really look like a brand that if you ordered from, you'd be like, dang, I'd be pretty excited about that. That adds a level of perceived value to your products, to buying from you. They see this and it automatically makes them feel like it is a higher quality item. The next one is just knowing that you aren't going to be for everybody. That you might price some people out by actually charging your worth, but handmade products are most of the time a luxury good. If you look at this, if you go and you look at a handmade swimsuit versus us buying a swimsuit on Shein, that is going to be a more luxury product. And so at the end of the day, you might price somebody out, but you know that you are actually making money and you are actually building a business that is built to scale. If your costs are $8 and you're selling it for $9 because you want it to be the most affordable option possible, you are running something that just doesn't make sense. You have a hobby. You have a very expensive hobby. And so if that's what you want, if you're like, Maddie, I really just want something to do, I don't really want to make money off of this, great. But I know because you're here and you're trying to learn different things, I know you're trying to make this into a business. So we need to make this into a business that makes sense and that is built to scale. What if you got 1,000 orders, in this month? Would that actually make it make sense for your brand to be doing what you're doing? If this was what you were doing 24/7, does your pricing structure make sense right now? The next thing is build community. When you build community and you have depth around your brand, you have an actual meaning, you have a differentiator, you have shared values, what you are doing is you are building a community of people that are down to buy from you. You're building a community of people that are so excited about what you have to offer that they are willing to spend whatever is necessary in order to get your products or support you or get the benefits that your products have. If you can communicate your benefits properly, have the branding and the messaging that really, correlates with what you are trying to build, and build the community and the connection there, you will have no problem selling your products. Again, think back to my ceramicist client who sells a mug for $150. That is because people have a connection to her. They see the value in her mug, and she's built a community around what she is building. And the next one is having depth in what you're talking about. Of course, if you're just like, look at this mug, go and buy it. Look at how cute this is, go and buy it. Oh my gosh, I love this, go and buy it. And you're basically just shoving product in people's faces. They probably don't see the benefit. They probably don't see the meaning behind what you're doing. So what you have to do is making sure that you have a marketing strategy, making sure that you understand what it takes to build a brand. Because what you're doing, if you have your your photos are dark and they're blurry, your perceived value goes down. So if you catch flack for, having your products be as high as they are, and it actually makes sense for you, like if you have somebody order from you and you kind of feel like it's a knife to the chest every time because you know that you are probably losing money on that purchase, that is just not something that is going to keep you motivated. I want you, when people check out, to be like, heck yeah, that's awesome. Wow, this actually feels like I can make it happen and make it work for myself because it actually is worth your time. I'm not saying that you have to go out and like make buku money on all of this. You have to charge your worth. All right. I'm not saying that you need to like make something for $3 and charge $100 for it. For sure. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's $3, charge $6, $7 for it. If it costs you $10, you can charge $20 or $30 for that. You don't have to just charge the bare bones. And for anybody out there being like, Maddie, yeah, duh, like I know I have to do this, you would be very surprised how many small businesses out there are trying to cut it as close as possible to fit that affordability because they want it to be affordable for everybody. This is a topic that I stray away from talking about because I know that it's a value of a lot of businesses to be able to provide this for as many people as possible and to be accessible and to really get out there. And that's why I have my podcast, is because I truly do want business support to be accessible for people. It's completely free. And I want that to be able to, when someone comes to me and says, Maddie, I can't afford to join your course or a call with you right now. How can I learn business? I said, I have 250 plus free hours of business support on my podcast. And so it's okay for you to have that value of accessibility and still charge what you're worth, because you can't discount the accessibility. You can't discount your actual ability to scale your business and the money that you are making with this business for accessibility for everybody else. You can do giveaways, you can do sponsorships, you can donate your products, you can do a whole bunch of other things that actually allows for you to give back more when your business actually has a higher profit margin. It allows you to actually run your business effectively, to make money that makes it make sense for you to keep on building this business, and it allows you to give back in different ways because you have more money to work with. So if you're trying to build this business for scale, you're trying to build this business to be your full-time job, you're trying to build this business to actually make sense for you, you have to charge what you're worth. You have to make it make sense. Affordability is not always the goal. I want this to be your permission slip that handmade products are luxury products. So you can charge at least the average profit margin. You should be able to do that. Now, if your profit margin, you're like, Maddie, this is really hard to charge. I have a candle. It's going to be really hard for me to charge whatever, $150 for this candle based on, doubling my costs of it. We might need to look at it and say, okay, where can we cut costs? Where can we do this? Now, that doesn't mean that every single thing has to be exactly perfect, but who I'm speaking to here are the people that are trying to be as affordable as possible, that are trying to be as low that they will take a pay cut in order for their products to get out to more people. There are certain things that we have to do as a business owner. We have to know our costs. We have to have a profit margin that at least makes sense for you to keep the lights on in your business, and understanding that you can charge your worth when you're marketing, when you're messaging, when you're branding really aligns with all of it. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't need to have studio level photo shoots in order to make your business make sense, but you would be really surprised, especially my artist clients or my like handmade business owners or people that like embroider sweaters. Like, I know that mug probably took that girl 9 hours of her time to make. And even then, let's say it took her 10 hours to shape that mug, carve it, paint it, glaze it, like all of the things. Even if it was $10 or 10 hours it took her as a whole to make that mug, that is still $15 an hour if you're just looking at labor. And so we really have to look at how long does it take? Does this make sense for you? And I have a lot of ceramicist clients that say, Maddie, it doesn't make sense for me to make mugs because they take a long time and people don't see the value in it. And so it just depends in your industry with your product line. And sometimes we can try to find a middle ground of something that makes sense for you as well as makes sense for your consumers. But you can't have a 10% profit margin or have a business that you don't allow for discounts or sales because you're trying to cut the costs as close as possible. Again, a lot of times it basically feels like you're running a really expensive hobby at that point, because you're like, yes, I'm getting these products out into the world. I'm helping people. And that's great. If that's what you want to do, that's wonderful. But we have to be able to build a business that is built for scale. Again, I shy away from talking about this a lot because I don't want to come off as insensitive, or I don't want to come off as the person that's like, go out there and charge quadruple what your costs are. But sometimes you can look at that at a product, and sometimes if you keep your costs as low as possible, people see a lower perceived value. Like, I've had plenty of customers or plenty of clients that I look at their product and I'm like, honestly, I would have expected this to cost more because of your branding, because of your packaging, because of your ingredients. Like, you can up the price on that because the perceived value of something is what people come to your brand. If you tell somebody, I'm going to solve X, Y, and Z problem for you for $4.99, they're going to be like, what's the catch? Like, what do you mean you're going to do that for $4.99? In their mind, they already have a perceived value of what all of these things are going to measure up to be. You do have to match their perceived value, or people are going to be skeptical about what it is that you are selling. And in the era of Amazon and Walmart and Target and shopping online and Shein and Temu and all of these other options, you have to differentiate on the fact that you are a handmade business owner, that it is small batch, and you have to make it seem like the perceived value for your products. You can't compete with Shein prices. You can't compete with Amazon pricing because they have lower costs than you. And so it's okay for you to charge more. But what you have to do if you are going to charge more is understand that your marketing, your branding, your messaging, and what you are communicating to them is what is allowing them to understand your perceived value of your product as well. That is what I'm trying to say, is that you can't compete with these people that are charging $5 for what you sell, because they have very little cost. They're probably making 5 million of those products. And so understanding that it's okay to charge your worth. You have to. You can't be the most affordable option in most cases. Of course, I've been able to find exceptions to that, but I want this to be your permission slip that you deserve to charge what your product is worth. You feel good about packaging up that order and saying, heck yeah, my business is growing. Heck yeah, I now have more resources to get my products out to more people. And that is really what matters. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that it's not taken in a greedy sense of like just 10x your price right now because you deserve it and you can milk every last dollar out of everybody. If you've been in my community long enough, I think you know that that's not where my heart lies. My heart really lies in make sure that this business makes sense for you to build. This business makes sense for you to grow, and there is inherent value in your handmade small batch company that you should be compensated for. You are putting so much time and so much energy into your business. I hate when I see people pouring their heart and soul into their business, and then we figure out that they're every time they make a sale, they're probably actually losing money. We have to make it where it makes sense for you. Now, it takes a couple years for your business to be overall profitable because there's a lot of stuff that goes into your business. I think it's on average, it takes at least a business 2 years to become profitable. On average, of course, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's much less, but understanding that you deserve to charge your worth. Yeah, if I had $1 every time I said that during this, I would be rich. All right. But charge your dang worth. I believe in you. You should believe in you, and you should believe that there is inherent value behind what you are creating. If you know it's been life-changing for you, if you know you love it, if you know your kids love it, if you know your friends love it, whatever, you know that people will spend a couple extra dollars for that thing. Everything is easier and more scalable if you build your business from the very start with a profit margin that makes sense. So you don't have to hike your prices later. So you don't have to, take money out of your own pocket to hire somebody. All of that is accounted for in the costs of your product. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it was taken in the right way. Let me know if this is a topic you want to hear more about pricing and figuring out how to price your products, how to price them effectively, how to cut costs. All of those things are things that we can dive into. I love hearing from you about topics that you would love to hear on the podcast or in a course or something like that. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. And I put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If this was helpful for you, send it to a friend. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.